Hey friends, I'm finally back in town. The hurricane has now passed us twice, once in Mexico and once in Florida, and we're ready to move on. So technically, following the program, we called this video Module 7. What we're talking about is macronutrition, so fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And you've now done a fast. You have now started to learn the kinds of things that your body should be eating, and you've learned how important protein is. So now I want to talk about putting meals back together. In this particular class, and what's different about the Keto Masterclass than the Paleo Total Transformation is I want you to actually track your macros. So there is an app that we use. It's a free app. It's called Cronometer, Cronometer. There are two versions, and I'll discuss the difference between those. I prefer Cronometer to any other tracking app for a reason. There's a definitive reason why this is the app that we use. Number one, if you add a new food, Cronometer has you upload photographs of the labels, the packaging, and the nutrition information on the food that you add. So each food is only added one time, so there's consistency. In things like MyFitnessPal, there's no consistency. You can put the same item in, get 25 different recommendations for that one item, and none of them are right because there's no accuracy whatsoever. Leave that to Under Armour, because Under Armour is the owner of MyFitnessPal. So I do want everyone to download Cronometer and begin using it. I will upload a video tutorial on how to set it up, but if you guys have questions, let me know. You have to go in and manually put your target protein and target carbohydrates and target fats in yourself. You cannot use the standard keto recommendation, and you cannot use their recommendation for you. So you have to go under settings and go to macronutrients and manually change that. So everybody is going to use the target protein, not the minimum protein that you figured out when you figured out your protein. You're all going to use net carbohydrates. So you're going to change it from total carbohydrates to net carbohydrates, and you're going to use 25 grams of net carbohydrate. That's carbohydrate after fiber has been removed. And we do include sugar alcohols. So there's a setting for you to include sugar alcohols and carbohydrate. You want to say yes to that. If you haven't yet figured out your protein needs, you need to go back to that video and figure it out. And if you have trouble, let us know. Fat is the only place you're going to see fluctuation. So there is a Ketogains calculator that you can use to come up with your total fat amount. And I'm going to put not a video, but a step-by-step of how to figure that out. And you're going to use their fat recommendation. However, if your fat recommendation for the day, if your fat intake for the day is lower than that and you feel full, that's fine. If your fat intake is higher than that and you do not feel hungry, I want you to reduce the amount of fat you take in. So the only target reference range you're actually going to be watching are carbs and protein. Your fat fluctuate based on hunger. And then I'm actually doing another video for our carnivore code class where I talk about the importance of fat. But you have to remember that you need fat. You need the fat that's attached to the protein. So when you eat a steak, you're not eating, don't go out of your way to eat lean protein because you'll die. You have to have fat. Fat is where the vitamins and minerals are. All of your fat soluble vitamins are there. Everything in an animal gets stored in the fat. So all of the nutrient density of the animal is in the fat, which is why cooking with butter, cooking with bacon grease, cooking with lard and tallow is so important, because there's a lot of nutrition in those things versus cooking with olive oil or even avocado oil. Those are great in terms of things you don't want there to be a flavor, but don't exclusively use those plant fats because you're not going to get the vitamins and minerals necessary out of those plant fats. So, let's see. 25 net grams of carbohydrates sounds scary to people, but it's not. It's actually a whole lot of vegetables. It's roughly 2 to 4 cups of low carb vegetables per day. There is an attachment that will go up in the group that shows you what 25 net grams of carbs look like and what kind of vegetables to choose. You want to think veggies with a high water and fiber content. You want to eat seasonally. So if something's not available that season where you live, you shouldn't be eating it. Fruits, stick to berries and citrus only. No apples, no bananas, no plantains for right now. You want to stick to things that are low carbohydrate, high water, high vitamin density, and high fiber. If you eat outside of these parameters, you have to pay attention. Does it fit your macros? So what I do is I enter what I eat throughout the day. So start with what you eat for breakfast. If you're a 2 meal a day eater or a 3 meal a day eater, having that there will help you realize what you need to eat the next time you eat. So for me, I typically eat 2 meals a day. I put in my breakfast and then there I figure out exactly what I have to meet my protein need at dinner so that I plan my dinner around what's missing in Cronometer, if that makes sense. So enter it throughout the day. Don't wait till the end because then it's too late for you to add more protein. Every time you eat, it is a protein plus a fat plus a vegetable. Fat is a tool to use. Again, higher satiation with higher fat intake. So if you're not hungry and it's difficult for you to get enough protein, then you're eating too much fat. If you're hitting your target protein and you're still hungry, then you're not getting enough fat. Okay. So what keto is not. Keto is not eating a ton of fat. It's not eating a stick of butter. It is not adding fat. It's not 80% fat. It's not 70% fat. It's focusing on what your body needs, starting with protein, using fat as an instrument, and lowering carbohydrates on purpose. Carbohydrates are the one macronutrient that no body, human body, mammal body, I don't care, no body needs carbohydrate, because carbohydrate is something you can actually create yourself from fat and from protein. You cannot do the opposite. Okay. Now, the goal is to take fat stores, transition them back into carbohydrate and burn them as fuel. That's what gluconeogenesis is. So everything we do revolves around the process of gluconeogenesis, a biological process your body was intended to do since the dawn of man. To take the fat that you stored because you didn't need the carbohydrate you had at the time, and it stores that as fat. Every time you eat carbs, you store that as fat. So now our goal is to go back into those fat stores, transition that back to carbohydrate so that you can burn it as glucose. That is gluconeogenesis. It is a natural process that you taught your body to not do. And now you're going to fix that. What keto is a nutrient-dense diet with controlled carbohydrates. Eating more fat is not the answer. An 80% fat prescribed ketogenic diet is for someone with cancer, epilepsy, or Alzheimer's disease. That is not a prescription for weight loss. If you're eating 80% fat, you won't lose weight. You need some fat. You don't need all fat. I hope that makes sense. By eating more nutrient-dense foods, focusing on protein and high-quality fats, you will feel less hungry, satiation, and therefore you will eat less frequently, and you will eat less, but you will be eating things with more nutrition in them, so your body will get more. So you will naturally have less hunger, better outcomes, and you will create a caloric deficiency. Even if you do not feel hungry, you can never eat less than 1,250 calories a day. So it's another reason for monitoring. The monitoring is not for you to become so rigid in your approach that you are a slave to it. It's so that you track it so that you know. You have to have awareness in what you do. If you're not aware of what you're eating, then you cannot know what things to change if you don't get the results that you want. So the tracking mechanism is for you and I to use together to figure out what kind of changes need to be made if you're not accomplishing your goal. The chronometer does fit to connect to things like Fitbit, Garmin, etc. So that target will fluctuate based on your movement if you connect those things together. So don't let the target moving interfere with your understanding. All I care about is, did you eat enough protein that day? Did your carbs stay below 30 grams and right around 25 net grams? And was your protein on target? Absolutely not. One other thing matters. That's the only reason you're tracking. You've got to focus on having enough protein. This will be the area that most people struggle with. I've never, in 12 years of doing what I do, met one person, including myself, who ate enough protein without being cognizant, intentional, and aware. That's why we do this. You can use the IdeaLife protein shake at the end of the day if you didn't get enough protein. Whoops, I have a makeshift little thing here. And so each serving of the IdeaLife protein shake is 24 grams of protein. This is a tool. This is never, ever a meal replacement. You do not drink your calories. You do not use a protein shake as a meal replacement. What the protein shake is for is additional supplemental protein when you don't eat enough. So if you get to the end of the day in a chronometer and you realize that you're lacking in your protein for the day and you've got to get some more in, but you're not hungry, or you don't want to make a meal, or you don't know what to eat, that's the time to use the shake. Now, you can use the shake as a drink. You can blend it up in a smoothie. I like to create my chocolate mousse out of it and have a little snack, a dessert that feels decadent, that feels like a treat, but it's really protein and fat without sugar. And there's 2 recipes for that, and they're located in Bedrock Nation, the client group. The fat bombs that we talked about earlier are a tool for when you're transitioning off of carbs. So those are not something you should use all the time. They're not a meal replacement. They're a tool for you to keep handy when you're craving carbohydrates so that you have a better alternative. They taste a little sweet, but they're high in protein, high in fat. If you are a meal skipper, you will probably need to force yourself to eat enough until you fix the hormonal problem that is creating the reason why you don't feel hungry. That's a hormonal issue that you caused, and we have to repair that. So there will be people in this group who have to eat even though they don't want to eat. Most people will be able to listen to their bodies and eat when hungry. But there will be a small handful of you that are used to eating nothing, and your body is in a state of starvation, and it's usually eating less and gaining weight, right? Because you're not getting the nutrition. And those are the people who are going to have to reach out to me and work with me on eating enough. If you have emotional eating problems, that's another reason to reach out to us. Schedule a one-on-one so we can talk you through that, support you in that, and help you fix that. Dairy, we've talked about it many times. Yes, no, maybe so. Dairy leads to sinus problems, respiratory problems, joint pain, inflammation, behavioral issues. Dairy for most people is a no. I recommend cutting it out for 90 days, then reintroducing raw, grass-fed, not store-bought dairy and seeing how you do with it. Intermittent fasting, we've already covered the different types of fasting. We covered long-term fasting. We covered short-term fasting. You can experiment with intermittent fasting. If you have questions about that, again, reach out, schedule an appointment with myself or the person on our team who you're working with. We already did our 72-hour fast. If you are new to fasting, I wanted everybody to do a 24 to 36-hour fast. Reach for 36. If at 36 you feel good, go to 72. If this is your first fast, try for at least 24, preferably 36. And then I want you to start incorporating long-term fastings, either once a quarter at 72 hours or once a month at 72 hours. It's up to you. In terms of the integration of your IdeaLife products, so your AM nutrition has to be taken with a meal. So if you are an intermittent faster, you want to make sure that you're having your AM nutrition when you break your fast after you've eaten a meal. You must chew food and eat a meal. You cannot take your vitamins with a shake alone. You do not begin to digest unless you both smell and chew. That signals salivary amylase. Salivary amylase releases hydrochloric acid in the stomach, and that tells your body that you're ready to eat, digest, and absorb nutrients. If you bypass chewing and smelling your food, you do not digest, okay? Let's troubleshoot schedules. So one of the things that our team will work with you on, and this is another reason for you to reach out to us one-on-one, is to troubleshoot your schedule and personal challenges. So for example, if your work schedule doesn't allow you to intermittent fast at a particular time, we can help you build your schedule in terms of your fasting and even your products into what fits your life. I want this to fit your life. I do not want you to try and fit this into your life. The reason for that is if you're trying to work against the grain, if you're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole, you're going to fail, and then you're going to blame the system. But the system is not to blame. The problem is that you didn't adapt the system to fit your life. And that is a place where it's important for you guys to sit down and schedule with us and talk about it. It's one of the reasons why when we do your assessment, I ask you about your daily schedule, what time you go to work, what time you come home, what time you go to bed, does your family eat together meals? Because that allows us to help you make this work in your situation. Stop trying to do everything alone. The point of being part of Bedrock Nutrition and part of Bedrock Nation is that you are never going to be alone again in your life, in anything that you ever do. You have a support team, you have accountability, and you have problem solvers at your disposal 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 356 days a year for the rest of your life. Already talked about that. In Bedrock Nation, the client group, there is a video of my favorite pantry staples that you can look up. Homework for this week is to download Cronometer, understand how to use the Ketogains calculator online, and figure out your macros, and get with us if you don't understand that so that we can help you with that. We're going to spend a full week or so just figuring out how to use Cronometer. So if you have any questions, I don't want you to stress about it. I want you posting in this group. There is not enough posting going on in the group. There's not enough questions being asked, which tells me you're not doing the work. If you were, you would have questions, you would have comments, you would have things that you're feeling and seeing and doing. That's what the group is for. I need you to participate. If you don't participate, the only person who loses is you. And we're here to support you all of the time in everything that you do. But you have to be 100% committed to the entire 90 days. You have to do all of the actions. You have to communicate back and forth with us so that we know how to serve you best, okay? So that is it for this week's video, and as soon as I get on my computer, then I will load the how to build a meal, the meal matrix, I will load information on Cronometer, and I will load information on the Ketogains calculator. I've got to take some screenshots to go ahead and post that. But that's what's coming this week. I hope that you guys have a really great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.